traditional cultural diplomacy is a qualitatively new level of cooperation between member countries of Eastern Partnership. The purpose of cultural diplomacy is a self-expression and positioning of country in international arena. The European Union demonstrates the opposite side that might be called a cultural phenomenon, in which every country, every separate country, is unique in her country culture. A flexible system of regulation, as well as coordinated network of government and non-government organizations, are practical instruments for cultural diplomacy. The process of cultural diplomacy based on mutual understanding through the ideas, culture, values, traditions, and information exchanges. This process implies a communication and represents between different cultures, which is founded on mutual understanding of values and lack of stereotypes. Cultural diplomacy can be put on practice at different levels, like national, public, and private. Thus, state-level cultural diplomacy is advised to promote the national interest with help of government or other politically motivated organizations. At the social level, non-governmental organizations and individuals through cultural diplomacy shall encourage and develop a platform for intercultural exchange. Private level implies the cultural diplomacy which is carried out with private equity firms with an interest in development of intercultural communications. The development of Ukraine's cultural diplomacy is in an early stage. Belonging of our country to the European civilization has identified the vector of further contacts. The European integration process in Ukraine, besides economic and political reasons, are also expressed in the activation partnership in cultural diplomacy. Although Ukraine has no so great cultural experience as in partnership, for example, like European countries, but in Ukraine there is a unique opportunity to apply the gained European to a whole new level. The European experience of cultural partnership is very extensive. There is a unique opportunity to apply the European experience like a new level for Ukrainian culture. At the present stage, the importance of cultural diplomacy is very big, and the implementation of decision of political and economic challenges will be impossible without the availability of cultural cooperation and dialogue. The member countries of the Eastern Partnership have common history, which is directly impact on the heritage and values. However, the purpose of cultural diplomacy is means of establishing their relationship with other countries as well as means of self-expression and positioning the country in the international arena. There is a view that globalization leads to a blurring of national boundaries and national identity. But in my view, the example of the European Union clearly demonstrates the opposite situation. When the European Union is monolithic, but individual country is culture unique. This is preciously the culture phenomenon of the European Union. The territory of Ukraine is populated by a large number of different ethnic groups. Therefore, the component management of culture, diplomacy, and politics as a whole is extremely important, not only for external positioning, but also for internal stability. Practical tools for implementation of traditional culture diplomacy is a flexible system of regulation, as well as coordinated network of government, non-government, and intergovernmental organizations. Speaking about Ukraine, it should be noted that the necessity of rapid development in this area, namely the establishment of an autonomous cultural institution. The application of regional and localized exposure in the development of culture cooperation will have a significant contribution to positive result with less risk. For example, culture diplomacy at the level of individual cities with deeper and more personal cooperation. Noteworthy experience of Lviv, where adopted the strategy of culture development to 2025 year. The purpose of which is identify priority and opportunity for cities' cultural development. The Eastern Partnership countries, since they got their independence, have significant achievements in cultural sector. But at the same time, positive-based achievement and the successful example of innovative practice were neither recognized or fixed. Ukraine has had difficulty with the public authorities and Ministry of Culture of Ukraine in creating conditions for serious independent cultural sector in charge of the private sector and sector of culture industries. The consequences are expressed in reform, development, and cohesion dominative of the state. One of the most important areas of cooperation between the European Union and the Eastern Partnership country, particularly Ukraine, is the direction of cultural researchers. There is a need in Ukraine of concerned actions to the development of culture policy and necessity for research of conditions for creating a comfortable culture environment. The new approach is to carry out analytic work with the information for strategy planning and management. The great example of huge culture program is Eastern Partnership Culture Program, funded by the European Union, which is implemented in Ukraine. Program's overall objectives is support the role of culture in the region's sustainable development and promote regional cooperation among public institutions, civil society, cultural and academic organizations in the Eastern Partnership region and with the European Union. Ministry of Culture of Ukraine support and promote cultural policy reform at the governmental level, build capacities of cultural organization and improve professionalism of the cultural sector in the region. The program's objectives for local government is to contribute to exchange of information, experience and best practice among cultural operators at the regional levels and with the European Union. Is to support regional initiative and partnership with demonstrate positive cultural contribution to economic development, social inclusion, conflict resolution, and intercultural dialogue. One of the main current tendencies in the fact that Eastern Partnership Program in the cultural aspect has become more targeted and coordinated. In this context, it is necessary to consider not only the cultural, spiritual context, but also in economic terms. As for Ukraine, the urgent problem for the implementation of practical instrument of cultural diplomacy is that the formation of cultural policies should be implemented through a real partnership between the Ministry of Culture of Ukraine on the one hand and public from the other hand. Officially financed cultural cooperation at international and multilateral level doesn't exist separate, and the relationship between the Eastern Partnership countries and the European Union member states sometimes are unequal, accompanied by stereotype and distortions. Sometimes in the Eastern Partnership countries we can observe unrealistic expectations relative to popular programs and funding from the European Union, while the European Union relations with the countries of the region, especially including Ukraine, controlled by the political elites who are interested in preserving their political position and the current issues of domestic policy are more important for them. This creates a context in which the requirement concerning relations with the European Union and partnership proposals sometimes do not meet the mass needs and conception, and do not affect the priority of political leaders. The main efforts of the activation of cultural and diplomatic relations between the European Union and Ukraine in the framework of the Eastern Partnership Culture Program should be directed to the qualitatively development and use the program potential. This would lead to establish of a new and more mature relationship between partners. Under such circumstances, when the government strongly supports culture initiative and acts the main catalyst of changes and reforms, the main goals of the traditional cultural diplomacy at this stage would be completed. And as a result, there will be a strong foundation for